Hello everyone, Historical Site here. Today's video is going to be, are Ireland and England the same? And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people think because England and Ireland are so close that they must be the same, or at least similar genetically. However, as I'm going to point out in this video, that's not necessarily true. You see, England is actually derived from Anglo, thus the Anglican Church. And I'm sure you've heard the word Saxon, Anglo-Saxon. Well, there's a reason these names are often thought to be synonymous with what we consider England today. However, there was a time where Anglo-Saxon were nowhere near England, relatively speaking. The Anglo-Saxons are actually Germanic tribes who were at various points used by the Romans as soldiers, and after Rome began collapsing or having less influence in Northern Europe, the Anglo-Saxons stayed in what is today present England. This brings us to our next point. Who was actually in England before the Anglo-Saxons? I'm glad you asked. The people who inhabited England before the Anglo-Saxons were actually the Britons, hence Britain or Britannica, and the Picts. These were most certainly not Germanic people, but these were actually Celtic people. Prior to Rome, the Celts were widespread amongst Europe. As you probably know, or maybe you don't, the Gauls prior to Britain Roman occupation were actually a Celtic tribe, which is why they're called the Gauls, and we think of the Irish language today as Gaelic. They were both part of the Celtic people. It's also why today, in northern Spain and southern France, the Basque people are so vastly different. And the Basque are also Celtic peoples. So, this brings me to our next point. How exactly and what exactly happened to the Picts and the Britons? Well, when the Anglo-Saxons stayed in the area that we now know as England, they actually pushed out the Picts and the Britons. Some of the Picts and Britons went to Scotland, and some of them went to Ireland. Ireland was one of the few places that wasn't directly occupied by the Romans. It was called Hibernia, and it wasn't until St. Patrick that the Romans had immense influence in Ireland and converted them to Christianity, as Ireland to that point largely had their own religions, what we would call pagan today. For these reasons, Ireland remains one of the few places with a almost fully intact Celtic population, as France and other formerly Celtic Confederation places now have very mixed populations, with the Franks, the Gauls, and even some Roman or Italian descent DNA. This is part of the reason why Ireland is so unique and prideful in their heritage. This, to an extent, is different in Northern Ireland, where they identify slightly more with the UK, and they have a bit more Scottish, English, and even Scandinavian DNA. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you.